بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. To mawqif or not to mawqif, that is the question. We are still in the discourse on the matters related to Jarh Ta'deel, and we are talking about the rules that the author has mentioned that the matters that we need to take into consideration before applying the golden rule of some الجرح المفسر مقدم على التعديل المجمل. So the author says يتوقف في قبول الجرح إذا خشي أن يكون الباعث الاختلاف في الاعتقاد أو المنافسة بين الأقران. So listen carefully. One refrains from accepting any jarh if he fears that the underlying cause of this jarh is an ikhtilaf and disagreement in matters of aqidah. Or number two, al-munafasa bayn al-aqran, competing between the aqran. The aqran literally means the cohort, the people that are on the same level. In other words, two guys that are more or less on the same level, if they're talking against each other, one has to refrain from just accepting that kalam that they say about each other. So, who said so? Is this the author's idea? Did he came up with this? Let's see. قال الحافظ ابن حجر ومما ينبغي أن يتوقف في قبول قوله في الجرح من كان بينه وبين من جرحه عداوة سببها الاختلاف في الاعتقاد. So from those that one has to refrain from accepting his jarh is the one who makes jarh against a person with who he has enmity based on a differing in aqidah. That mean فإن الحاذق إذا تأمل ثلب أبي إسحاق الجوزجاني لأهل الكوفة رأى العجب وذلك لشدة انحرافه في النصب وشهرة أهلها بالتشيع. And then he gives us an example for whoever looks into the harshness or the severity of the speech of Abu Ishaq al-Jawzajani against the people of Kufa. Verily he will see, amazing exaggeration in this, and this is because he was Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar said لشدة انحرافه في النصب, he was hardcore into nasb. Al-Jawzajani, he was a nasibi. Imam Ahmad said he's thiqa, right? So this guy, his hadith is highly accepted. However, his jarh against the people of Kufa, لماذا؟ لشهرة أهلها بالتشيع, because they were famous for having tashayyu', yani they were Shia. Obviously they're not the Shia of today, alright? The Shia of that day and age, that's a very long discourse, but let's not mix things up. فَتَرَاهُ لَا يَتَوَقَّفُ فِي جَرْحِ مَنْ ذَكَرَهُ بِلِسَانٍ ذَلْقٍ وَعِبَارَةٍ طَلَقَةٍ. For verily he was very harsh and very aggressive in the way he was talking to them. حتى أنه أخذ يلين مثل الأعمش وأبي نعيم وعبد الله بن موسى وأساطين الحديث وأركان الرواية, to the point that he has criticized or declared weak Al-A'mash, Abu Nu'aym and Abdullah ibn Musa and others from the pillars of Ahadith. So Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar says فإذا عارضه مثله أو أكبر منه فوثق رجلا ضاعفه قبل التوثيق. So whenever we have somebody who is at the level of Al-Jawzajani or bigger than him that is making a ta'deel of somebody that he made tad'if of, we accept the ta'deel and we don't look at his tad'if, his jarh, right? So that was from a Nasibi perspective. Then Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar still talking ويلتحق به عبد الرحمن بن يوسف بن خراج المحدث الحافظ. So that's a very high level, Al-Hafidh, in the terminology of Jarh Ta'deel. That means that he's at the very high level of acceptance for his hadith. However, فَإِنَّهُ مِنْ غُلَاةِ الشِّيعَةِ. So this man, Abdurrahman ibn Yusuf ibn Khiraj, he was from the hardcore Shia of that day and age, of course. They're not like the hardcore Shia of today. The hardcore Shia of that day and age would be considered mild Shia in this day and age. بَلْ نُسِبَ إِلَى الرَّفْض. And he has even been accused of being a Rafidi. فيتأنى في جرحه لأهل الشام للعداوة البينة في الاعتقاد. So one is cautious before accepting any jarh of his against the people of Sham who were into nasb because of the clear enmity that was between them in because of matters of i'tiqad. So let's pause here for a second. So is it okay to have ikhtilaf in aqidah? Is it okay to be Ash'ari? Is it okay to be Mu'tazili? Is it okay to be Qadari, Nasibi, Shi'i, etc.? No, it's not. We have seen in the first lesson that one of the matters that contradict integrity is bid'ah. All right. However, what we are talking about right here is that some people were into what we could qualify as a mild level of deviance into some form of bid'ah that has its origin into the fitan that were around in that day and age, in the context that they were living in. So that gives them at least some level of excuse, and it does not fully destroy their integrity, especially if these people are known in everything else to be of high integrity, whether it be in their religion or in their honesty in dealing with people in general and with ahadith especially. So we see that first of all, what we understand from what the author has mentioned here, and quoting Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar, is that one, not every khilaf in a matter of aqidah, even if it's legit, allows you to write off the other person, even if the khilaf is legit, meaning that you're upon the haqq and the other person is upon batil. It's more complicated than that. There are many factors that need to be taken into consideration. Second, even if you might be upon the haqq, that might lead you to transgress against the person who is not upon the haqq in this particular matter. For verily you might have some haqq, however you will put a big load of batil on top of that just out of transgression against your opponent. Alright? And review what I have said in the series Tumawqif when I was reading from the book of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, اقتضاء الصراط المستقيم. So, still, Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar talking. ويلتحق بذلك ما يكون سببه المنافسة في المراتب فكثيرا ما يقع بين العصريين الاختلاف والتباين لهذا وغيره فكل هذا ينبغي أن يتأنى فيه ويتأمل. So he says, and another matter which also falls under this is when people from a same, or like a cohort, people that are from the same level, from the same generation, from the same era, operating in the same environment, when we fear that these people are competing against each other, be it for fame or whatever. So this is a matter which is clear-cut contradicting ikhlas. That's a fact. However, as we have said, Jarh Ta'deel is a matter where human flaw comes into play. And the A'imma of Jarh Ta'deel take this into consideration. We don't consider a Jarh Mufassar to be an ayah coming down from the sky. We understand that it came from a human being and he's judging another human being. And between human beings, we have bias, and we need to take this into consideration when we want to make rulings on who to take the religion from. So, Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar said all of this, when you have speech from a same cohort, people against each other, then this is something where you have to be cautious and, look at it in more detail. Then the author mentions وقال الحافظ الذهبي, famous statements of Al-Hafidh al-Dhahabi, كثير من كلام الأقران بعضهم في بعض ينبغي أن يطوى ولا يروى. A lot of the speech from the Aqran, the cohort, the people of the same level, yutwa wala yurwa. That means yutwa in Arabic, tuya kaidu is like, just close the file, just put it away. Wala yurwa, you don't spread it. Wa yutrah, you are, not trashing it, but you just throw it out. Wala yuj'alu ta'nan, yu'amalu ar-rajulu bil-'adli wal-qist. Any kalam of the Aqram, this is not something that you take as a criticism against the man. Rather, the man has to be dealt with fairly. So let's pause here for a second. So folkies, these are the rules of Al-Jarh wa Ta'deel. Based upon these rules, all our trashy websites, tabloids, manhaj.com, etc., PDF, mass publications against other people from the West, based on the rules of Jarh Ta'deel, what you have to do is move it into the trash folder and empty the trash folder. Those are the rules of Jarh Ta'deel, folks. I'm not inventing it, right? I read to you the Kalam of Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar and Al-Imam Al-Dhahabi, mentioned by the main teacher of Al-Jarh Ta'deel, or one of the main teachers of Al-Jarh Ta'deel in the Islamic University of Al-Madinah decades ago. So now we have been looking at one spectrum, is when people are unjustly harsh in making jarh. Right? So that can answer our question, how come we have people in the West that are of high integrity and have a very high level of accuracy and lot to offer that are being made jarh of? To me, that's the answer to that question. Now we have the second part of the question, how come do we have people of very low level of integrity, and when it comes to accuracy, they don't have much to offer to start off with? Okay, how come these people are being made ta'deel of and pumped up as being the yardsticks, the representative of Salafiyya in the West, if not worldwide? Well, the author says, وَنَظِيرُ ذَلِكَ فِي التَّوْثِيقِ مَا ذَكَرَهُ الْحَافِظُ الذَّهَبِي. And likewise in matters of tawthiq. Now we're on the other side of the spectrum. What again Al-Hafidh al-Dhahabi mentioned, قد يكون نفس الإيمان فيما وافق مذهبه أو في حال شيخه ألطف منه فيما كان بخلاف ذلك. So an imam can become extremely or can become lenient in anything or anybody that is in agreement with his madhab. And I have explained many times before, a madhab is not only the fiqh madhab, Hanafi, Hanbali, etc. No, madhab is any opinion, right? Your opinion on this matter, that's your madhab on this matter. Like, for example, your imam claims that somebody like Abu al-Hasan al-Misri is one of the greatest deviants of our times. So whoever walks along with that and keeps on pushing that, well, then he is the noble brother, the noble Salafi, the defender of the Sunnah, etc. And anybody who says, well, I don't really want to get involved, this person is written off. Just as an example, right? So, again, people, these are the rules of Al-Jarh wa Ta'deel. Now, everybody just be honest with yourself and reconsider some of the things that you're upon. I'm not asking you to question Salafiyya, hasha wa kalla. I'm asking you to question some of the hardcore Hizbiyya traits that you have fallen into and wake up before it's too late. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.